Hi everyone, my name is Kiki.
And my name is Perrin, and today we will be talking about H&M.
Business performance of H&M Group. Net sales 2018 $23.2 million USD, 2019 $24.3 million USD, 2020 $22.5 million USD. The group's fast fashion model strategy attracts audiences from 6 continents. The group has covered 74 markets in 60 plus countries. The competitors including Zara, Uniqlo, Bershka, American Eagle Outfitters, and Gap, who are sharing the same market. H&M Group operates 5,076 stores and employs over 177,000 people, which was the seventh most valuable apparel brand in the world as of 2020. The brand's biggest assets are their style selection, diversity, competitive price, and a collaboration strategy. The problems including overproduction caused wastes, fashion communication deficiency, and an ethical production line and a cycle.
For their problem, H&M has been known for releasing countless pieces of product on a yearly basis, which has led them to destroying unsold merchandise, which started back in 2013. Since these allegations, H&M has been pushing their efforts towards sustainability, and in order for the company to improve, they should be more transparent in regards to their actions. So the causes of the problem seems to be focused around the concept of fast fashion, and comes the issue of producing garments that don't seem to sell quickly to consumers, which leads to an excess of unsold inventory. Analysts and critics blame the cause of the issue as poor inventory management and underwhelming product offerings. For perceptions of social media, H&M definitely faced backlash from large publications in the media, in which the media addressed how the fashion industry is known as one of the main causes towards pollution and greenhouse gases, and brands should do everything possible to help the environment. When it comes to the perceptions of the CEO and the creative director, in light of the problem, the creative director expressed the need to change the business model towards circularity while planning to use fabrics that are created from sustainable resources by the year 2030. And as for the CEO, he speaks about how during the pandemic, overproduction became an issue due to the closure of physical stores, and he also announced the plans to reduce stores by 5% in the next year. So we all know that H&M is one of the leading retailers in the world. Their fashion model moves large shipments of product from the manufacturing process to consumers in a quick turnaround time. They put the needs of their customers first and provide options that fit the latest fashion trends. Because of COVID-19, it has affected their retail operations in areas of retail sustainability and the supply chain. When it comes to manufacturing, H&M has placed efforts towards understanding purchasing practices and outsourcing production. They purchase from locally owned, multinational garment manufacturers that supports local businesses and economic development based in Asia and Europe. They also strengthen relationships with their suppliers and garment workers to support the textile and garment industry. H&M's business model runs successfully in conjunction with their marketing team, where they're able to determine the needs of the target market by making changes in their supply chain. In the midst of the fast fashion sector, H&M actively communicates their responsibility towards sustainability.
Based on the data collected on Statista, we have discovered that H&M Group sales trends over the past decade have shown significant growth from 2006 to 2017. Last year, the pandemic has severely impacted the sales. H&M Group's net sales amounted to $22.5 million US. Store closures and a reduction in brick-and-mortar revenue have led to a continuing development in online sales, with a temporary store closing, which took about 28% of the total sales in 2020.
This is H&M's SWOT analysis, and I would first like to talk about their strengths. Despite previously receiving criticism because of their low-priced clothing made with a quick turnaround time, the company has launched a Clothing Collective initiative where customers can drop off clothing of any brand so that H&M can reuse or recycle products in an effort to be environmentally friendly. For their weaknesses, they have been known to be linked to the controversy related to releasing a hoodie that was modeled by a black child model that incorporated the phrase "coolest monkey in the jungle" back in 2018. They were exposed with the group's inability to align their values and inclusion and diversity statements. For opportunities, we think that H&M has a possibility of providing transparency in the business model, their online strategy, and sustainability in general. Consumer preferences are always changing related to materials and price points, especially during times of trying to save the environment, trying to purchase clothes that are environmentally friendly, and then also online user experiences that raise awareness and informs consumers about certain processes that H&M is doing is something else that they have the potential in growing in. As for threats, a global pandemic leading to a drop in sales and an increase in costs is definitely something that companies should be aware of. Their competitors like Zara and ASOS can also compete with H&M regarding design and manufacturing processes. In the fashion industry in general, there are always companies and brands trying to compete with each other and provide the best price points and manufacturing processes that have the best turnaround times. So that's also a threat that H&M should be aware of.
H&M promised to use 100% recycled or sustainable materials in reducing its greenhouse carbon emission by 2030 based on its science-based data. However, the inventory was accumulated to 4.3 billion worth by 2018 and 3.9 billion unsold goods on its book. Furthermore, the percentage of water recycled out of total production water consumption was only 13% in 2019. And due to overwhelming demand, H&M is in the habit of placing huge quantity orders that easily make the factories drain themselves of being incapable of completing the requested orders before the deadline. Since the group outsourced their products to poor regions with the cheapest cost where the salary is barely enough to support the essentials for the local labor at an average wage rate, sometimes the factories have to subcontract the overbooked orders to other smaller manufacturers to fulfill the production deadline, and maybe gain more margins instead of rejecting the booking that they couldn't complete by themselves. It is the brand's accountability for being misinformed with insufficient transparency of the production line. Due to the controversial campaign of Coolest Monkey in the Jungle featured on a black child model back in 2018, H&M was exposed with the group's inability to align their values in inclusion and diversity statements. The sweatshirt with the slogan was soon caught up with the attention worldwide since the term was deemed an inappropriate and degrading stereotype to African descent. The matter brought in massive criticism and negative reviews, not only about the clothes but also affected the brand image after all. This triggered H&M to appoint their first ever global leader of diversity and inclusion to brush off the heat, racism, accusation, and insensitivity. H&M is working on their problems and facing it with different strategies, but it is still a long way to go for people to completely change how they perceive the brand in the future.
So this leads us to the big idea for H&M. We think it would be best to transition into an omni-channel retail that offers a better system by using data points from online stores in conjunction with customer preferences in hopes to predict trends to better understand consumer needs. H&M can do this by finding a good balance between demand and supply, while also taking into account the issues that are going on around the world, such as the pandemic or things related to sustainability and the environment. Our big idea is for H&M to place more efforts on predicting demand while also being able to achieve sustainability. H&M is setting a goal to reduce its greenhouse gas emissions by 2030, so they should take this one step forward by increasing their marketing and communications efforts towards educating their consumers. Their stakeholders include customers, colleagues, communities, suppliers, industry peers, non-governmental organizations, intergovernmental organizations, policymakers, and investors, able to improve their goals, formulate strategic plans in regards to sustainability, and also establish ways to evaluate their overall process. By establishing partnerships with various organizations and groups, they can hit topics that can better health and safety working conditions. They can talk about the transformation of the garment and textile industry.
If H&M starts to implement blockchain technology throughout their value chain, the company needs to start hiring data and engineers to pivot the technology department and provide the guideline for each department to follow the policy and forecasts. Each department should hire at least one engineer to collect, clean, organize, and concatenate the data into a story to present to respective department employees. This technology adoption will cost from a range 5,000 to 200,000 USD, and the technology talents would cost 1.29 million USD if all 14 departments hire one, and the average data engineer salary is at 92,305 USD. When we look at the micro scale of the business, the first key component is the business model. Adapting to a new business model, raising the awareness, and educating targeted consumers. The second key component is advanced technology implementation, new auto machines for factories to enhance workers' environment, and blockchain for transparency
throughout the value chain. Lastly is the most important part, it's innovation, expanding the spectrum of innovations in the existing formula based on the sustainability paradigm.